After 3 years of work, our follow-up to the Meat Eater Fish and Game Cookbook is here. It's the Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, campfire, and camp stove. Here is your book for everything that's best cooked or eaten outside. From grilling to open fire cooking to Dutch ovens to smokers to barbecue to backpacking meals to how to pull off the perfect fish fry, with pit stops along the way for lessons about Ice Age cooking methods and the best 5 ways to construct a cooking fire you can be proud of. And of course, we're focusing on wild game and fish here with over 100 recipes, including stuffed venison burgers 3 ways, wild duck with ahi verde sauce, a jerky made with cola, a gin and tonic made with fire-charred lemons, and grilled frog legs made with a sticky sweet sauce. This ain't your normal cookbook, so be prepared to be surprised. Get your copy now. For more info, visit themeateater.com or buy it wherever books are sold.
You're listening to the Sportsman's Nation Podcast Network, brought to you by Federal Premium Ammunition. Now, Federal has come out with a new turkey load called the Heavyweight TSS, or the Heavyweight Tungsten Super Shot. Now, this is a tungsten alloy material, and it's 18 grams per cubic centimeter density. Now, what this means is it's 22% higher than standard tungsten and 56% higher than lead. So it is a very dense material, and it has the ability to travel at high velocities and continue that velocity at longer distances. It has deadly patterning, and it also has something called flight control flex, and that is when that rear braking wad performs flawlessly through ported and standard turkey chokes. So if you want to find out more information about the Heavyweight Tungsten Super Shot, visit federalpremium.com, and while you're there, don't forget to check out their podcast and their blogs. Tons of great content.
My name is Clay Newcomb, and I'm the host of the Bear Hunting Magazine podcast. I'll also be your host into the world of hunting the icon of North American wilderness, the bear. We'll talk about tactics, gear, conservation, but we'll also bring you into some of the wildest country on the planet, chasing bear.
Hey guys, I hope that your quarantine time has been productive for you. I hope that you've got a job, and I hope that everything's going well. I hope that you're getting out to do some spring bear hunting. Some of the states are opening back up, and some of you guys that are residents in states that have seasons, I hope that you've had some time to get into some wild places chasing bear. Hey, this podcast, I'm with my good friends Justin and Becca Spring. They are very interesting people. Justin is the director of records for the Boone and Crockett Club. And on this podcast, we talk about a lot of just general fun stuff about where they live up in Montana and some of the big game stuff up in Montana. But Justin also tells us about his recent trip to hunt muskox in Nunavut. Super interesting story. And Justin and I have a good conversation about Boone and Crockett's stance of using technology with hound hunting entries for Boone and Crockett. So, super interesting podcast with some really hospitable, genuine, and super people that I call my friends Justin and Becca Spring. Be sure to check out all the new products at bear-hunting.com at our website, and check out our new Sheep Hunt of the South shirts. And we've got a lot of new t-shirt designs. We've got some DVDs that are on sale. We've got Bear Dog, Bear Grease, Flashy Mule, Bear Hunter hats. We got a lot of cool merch. Check it out. And hey, while you're there, check out a subscription to Bear Hunting Magazine. We're the only bear hunting magazine in the world. And you can get $5 off a 1-year subscription by using the code BHM20. So check it out. And hey, I want to give a hat tip to our buddies at W Hunting Supply, Northwoods Bear Products, and our buddies at the Western Bear Foundation. You're going to enjoy this podcast with Justin and Becca Spring. I am with Justin and Becca Spring. They were on the podcast last year, and we learned that Becca punched a bear in the face. And we heard about a lot of you guys hunting adventures. You guys do a lot of traveling and hunting. But Justin works for Boone and Crockett. Justin is the director of records for the Boone and Crockett Club. You know, that podcast we did last year, I thought it was really good. We described what the Boone and Crockett Club was and all this stuff. Because a lot of people I don't think really even understand it. But man, you eat, live, and breathe Boone and Crockett, don't you?
Yep, that's what they pay me to do.
That's what they pay you to do. No, it's awesome to have you guys on. So I want to talk about a little bit of you guys' adventures the last couple of years. So, or not a couple of years, this last fall. So you guys are here in Western Montana, and what's your favorite thing to hunt locally?
Oh man, it's fun to be able to take the kid out just out the backyard, right? And we got turkeys and grouse and got deer and elk and bears, just kind of all right here. So that's pretty fun. But I guess deer, we're lucky to have these mountain whitetails. Yeah, they're just an absolute blast to hunt. And I think they're kind of an untapped resource. We have a lot of fun rattling them late and then calling them. And it's just, they're just a lot of fun. And they're delicious. So
yes,
nice.
Yeah. The numbers of game up here is just astounding to me. The variety. I mean, I guess that's the West, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Montana does a real good job of game populations, and you know, it's notable. We've got friends from a lot of states. You know, I went to high school with in college that romanticized they'll come to Montana and hunt, and it's good. I mean, there's you know, it's an opportunity state for sure. And that's a fine thing, you know. There's areas that we have some pretty good mule deer and elk, not locally, but this is just a numbers game, and you're hunting mature animals, but they're not the biggest in the world. But man, the country and the people, everything's awesome.
Describe to me what an opportunity state means. I'm not. A lot of people will be familiar with that terminology, but
yeah. So basically, when the states are kind of developing their game management strategy, you know, they're working for the public. And so they do research and they figure out what does the public want. Some states, people are okay waiting 10, 15 years for that opportunity to hunt because they want that top-end mature animal. Other states, the majority of the licensed buyers and the hunters are just looking for an opportunity. You know, of course, they'd love to shoot a big buck or a big bull every year. But when it really comes down to it, they want the opportunity to go hunting every year. And so that's a management strategy that the state will put in.
Yeah. You know, what would be some examples? You know, the other thing too, aside from big animals. So if there's limited number of hunters coming into a state for elk or whatever in a certain region. So if it's a draw region and it's a super coveted tag, that means less animals are being taken out. It's being more strategically managed for bigger animals, better animals. But to me, I think the experience that's a plus is less people. Yeah. You know, last year, for the first time ever, we elk hunted. My son, Bear, and I. And what state do you think we went to?
Colorado.
You knew that already. You cheated. But you would have guessed that anyway.
Right.
Because Colorado is an opportunity state. I think they give out like 60,000 over-the-counter elk tags, something ridiculous. And there's benefits in that because Bear and Clay Newcomb can wake up on like August 20th and go, you know what? Let's go elk hunting in 3 weeks and go elk hunting. But these draw permits that for these coveted regions are really cool, I think, because less people, you know. But there's still but even Montana being an opportunity state, non-resident big game stuff is pretty tight though, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we have as a non-resident, you have to draw the general tag, whereas a resident, we can buy it over the counter. And
can you buy a tag
Not in any zone though.
Montana is, for a resident, I mean, there's a very few number of limited permits.
Okay.
For the most part, the west side, you have to declare the mule deer unit you want to hunt, and that's a guaranteed draw, which seems impossible, but you just have to declare, I am going to hunt unit blank, blank, blank. And
Did you go out on your front porch and like declare it? Like,
yeah.
I declare that I will hunt in unit 17.
And
And then Fish and Wildlife drones pick it up,
Right.
record it.
Exactly. No, they and when you get a mule deer permit on the west side, you can't hunt anywhere else. We don't usually put in for permits. There's enough general units, which is the east side of the state, that we really like to. That's where we spend our time.
Yeah.
But it helps distribute hunters out.
There you go.
You know,
That's so foreign to Eastern hunters. I mean, we understand it because now, for long enough, the East has been integrated into Western hunting just through media and guys are traveling out. But man, we got a lot simpler system down in Arkansas, buddy. Anybody can come and buy any tag they want, and any resident can pay $25 and hunt anything we got. But we don't have big elk. We don't have, No, that's awesome.
The other thing too is, I mean, they're habitat limited. We're hunting migratory animals.
Okay.
It
has to be managed different.
Yeah. The whitetail tactics from the east are very successful. That deer has a home range. You can pin him. Here we're not. Trail cameras, if they were even legal out here, which they're not if there's an open season, wouldn't do us much good because that deer could be, or that elk could be moving miles depending on the season. So when we're scouting, we're saying, okay, well, right now they're in their summer range, but they could be 10 miles away, usually not that far, but it's a migratory animal. So we know our spots aren't necessarily hunting a particular animal. We're saying, okay, at this elevation, at this time, with this forage, with this amount of snow, this is going to be the area that's going to congregate whatever, type of critter we're looking for. So it's a different world. And, you can come out here, and if you're not right on the migration or where the critters are, you could be in some of the best elk country in the state and not see an elk if you're a week early or a week late.
Yeah. Amazing. You know what I noticed being out here, and this is an obscure observation, but the carcasses of dead critters. Really, everywhere that I've been, and there, there's like elk carcasses, mule deer carcasses, and when you have big populations of big game, predators are killing them.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of stuff. There's a vibrant cycle of life out here. I don't know why I noticed that, but it seems like every time I got out of the truck, there would, you'd walk. I mean, it wasn't human-induced stuff, I don't think. I mean, it was like, appeared to be natural. But just, big, and these animal populations are so, they fluctuate. They're vibrant. Predators are alive and well in Montana, big time. Wolves, bears, lions. I mean, like right here. I mean, that's pretty amazing to me.
Yeah, we've had all of them. We've had bears on the porch. We had I don't know if we told you about the mountain lion that killed a pup coyote, and it was a mom and a cub lion. Well, second year, and they were vocalizing. She actually heard the chirping and whatnot from our deck of this mom lion teaching her baby how to kill a coyote pup, and then the mom coyote was howling. And I mean, this was all happening right in our yard, and we're not that far away from a pretty big population center of Missoula. We're only 30 miles out. So yeah, it's pretty cool. You think about it a little bit with the kid out by himself, but you're not preventing him from going out there. It's just, they're here, we're here, and we, coexist, I guess. I mean, you have a lot of people that don't necessarily understand this dynamic, and we don't hate them. We don't want them all dead, but at the same time, you don't want to leave them unchecked. So that's kind of where we stand on it, living right in the middle of a predator hotspot, So
yeah,
it is interesting too. We've actually here, just up 9 Mile here. It was like just self-reintroduction of wolves. They just naturally moved down from Canada. Yeah, which is kind of interesting too. That they're kind of always here. Probably.
Well, let's talk about that because so in the lower 48, there's been all this controversy of, the reintroduction of Yellowstone wolves. We don't have to get into all that. But the idea is that these wolves from Canada were brought down here and reintroduced back in, and perhaps it was a different kind of wolf. That's what people say. What you're saying is that nobody reintroduced these wolves. These wolves came themselves down from Canada, and they know that from genetic research. That's not just anecdotal observation.
As well as observational history from people who've lived in the area their whole life too. But yeah. There's a good book out there, 9 Mile Wolves by Rick Bass. If,
oh, really?
Interested, yeah.
9 Mile Wolves by Rick Bass. Huh. Yeah, that's amazing. I've yet to see a wolf up here. I've yet to see a wolf. I'm waiting. I have yet to hear one howl. You know, I've never heard a wolf howl. In all the times I've spent in Canada, Alaska, here, I've never heard a wolf howl. It may be, though, because I've been sleeping on my left ear and I can't hear out of my right ear. Maybe that's it.
Yeah, we did a bear hunt in Southeast Alaska, and a friend of mine that's up there, another official major for the club, that's a commercial fisherman, is a wolf trapper, and he hunts them. And listening to him howl, like, kind of keyed us in on it. Now, I've never heard one just out and about, but you know, we were on a deer hunt not far from the house, and had a buck get away from us, and had a buddy with me, and there was fresh wolf tracks. And so we walked it, and we get to the end of the trail, and we're like, okay, we're not going to turn this buck up. You know, we're 5 miles in or whatever. And, you know, I was like, well, let's give these wolves a howl and see if we can get them, and, you know, tried to emulate what he'd done. And as soon as I get done howling, my buddy looks, he's like, has that ever worked for you? I go, no. Well, right when I said that, the whole drainage we were in just blows up. We were surrounded by a pack of wolves.
No way.
And it was pretty cool, you know, and it was wolf season, so we were getting our guns ready, and I think we actually spooked them. We freaked out. They were pretty darn close to us, and they heard us, like, hyperventilating and trying to get guns ready and everything. And they had one line of timber that they could walk that we couldn't see them, basically, to get out of this drainage, and you heard them go right up and over the top. So they're around, you know, it's cool too. But even then, I mean, we've seen a couple in season briefly. We've got pictures of a good white one out, same area. We were spring bear hunting. You know, there was still some snow on the north side, and we found a fresh wolf track, and we're like, yeah, we'll just walk this out. And sure enough, we got photos of this, you know, white wolf, maybe 200, 250 yards. So they're around, but it's not predictable. I couldn't say, oh, you want to see a wolf, go here and do this.
Right.
But you come across them. It's
and you can
cool.
hunt them in Montana.
Yep.
You have to have a wolf tag.
You got to have a wolf tag. They're Montana's pretty proud of their non-resident tag, so it's pretty expensive. For us, I don't know what we're paying, but we can shoot or trap up to 5 a year.
No way.
Yeah. Which I guess technically.
Does anybody kill them?
Yeah.
Just opportunistic hunters.
There's a few people that have done the work and figured out, you know, that they can call them.
Okay.
You know, the Idaho side, I mean, an old fire siren that you'd crank. You know, it's like a shot gobble of a turkey. You can make a wolf howl. But there's guys and gals that have kind of chosen to concentrate on wolves, and they're successful with it.
Yeah.
You know,
I know there's a lot of successful wolf trappers in Idaho. I've never heard of anybody, not to say there's not, but somebody that was like, got good at hunting them.
Yeah. And well, I mean, that
besides
area,
Becca.
Yeah.
I'm sure Becca could.
Put him in a headlock.
Have you ever punched a wolf, Becca?
No, I'll work on that.
But
she'd probably stab a wolf rather than punch it. I think a bear, you know, you could punch a wolf, probably stab him.
Well, a bear's generally politer than a wolf.
No doubt.
I mean, they're, you know, they kind of keep their distance. Usually they don't show up uninvited, where a wolf will if you know.
Yeah, as we know from the story of the Three Little Pigs.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Not a polite animal. So
no, it's fascinating to me. You know, there's such a, like, for someone who does not have wolves in their state, which historically, there were wolves that ranged across, as far as I know, all of the lower 48. I mean, for sure in Arkansas, the historical literature in Arkansas, these guys that were making journals in the early 1800s that were hunting and trapping, they talked about wolves constantly. And that people need to, like, people in the East or wherever they're in their state, they ought to go back and read the literature of people that were in places that they know. There's something about reading a story that came from, I mean, like the one guy I'm thinking of, Frederick Gerstacker, he was hunting 25 miles from my house. And so you can just envision what he was seeing. And you're like, he was right here. And he's talking about killing mountain lions wolves howling, and it kind of puts it in perspective, like a, you kind of get this like a little bit richer, a little bit deeper understanding of big game on this continent kind of before a lot of different stuff happened.
Yeah.
But so I say all that to say wolves are like this almost like mythical creature. So I love it. I absolutely love it. But it's still kind of amazing to me that you can kill 5 wolves in Montana.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you?
They don't.
There's no good answer.
I'm not sure how they taste. At the end of the day,
stew. Becca could cook it up.
That's really, I mean, for us, our season starts early too. With Western hunts. I mean, you can start hunting pronghorn in August. You can hunt deer in California in July. I'm not gonna lie. Our season runs through the end of November. We hit Thanksgiving time. We're kind of done. You've been going hard in the paint all season. And then that's kind of when the wolf hunting really gets going, is in the winter.
Yeah.
And it's every year I have this intention that we're going to get out and we're going to go do the research. We know the areas that they're living. We know where we could find them, but figure out how to hunt them. And you hit that point and you're just kind of like, man, I need a breather. Let's go catch some fish through the ice and sit in a little ice shack or something. Yeah.
And it's such a brutal time of year up here.
Yeah, it can be. And you're always chasing that fresh snow. You don't want it to be snowing hard because that's going to cover the tracks, but you don't want it to be, a week since a snowstorm, since you can't, you can tell, but it's harder to distinguish the fresh tracks. So, the same with the lion hunting. You want that snow on Thursday that finishes up on Friday evening, ideally, and then you're hitting a fresh canvas Saturday morning and, trying to schedule that with the outdoor shows that I do for work and then all that. It never seems to come together that we get out there and give it an effort that I feel is, what we'd consider a solid effort. We can go for a drive and look for some tracks, but you're killing time. You're not really hunting.
Yeah. Well, Justin, you went on a muskox hunt last year.
I did.
There's what a beast. Tell us, you don't have to go into all the details because I know some of it wasn't the best. Just in terms of tell me a little bit about that hunt.
So I was invited to go along on it. I have only ever done one other guided hunt. That's not, it's not something that we do. Not that we're against it or anything. It's just, price wise, we can do a lot more on our own.
Yeah.
But this was an opportunity. I was asked to go along, and it was a pretty cool deal. It was a combination muskox caribou in the fall. So the weather was, 32 degrees and rain and snow. It wasn't what you see where you're going out, on the sleds, 40 below, where you need the specialty gear. It's a fall hunt.
So what time of year? What, September?
Yeah, it was at the very end of August, September, I believe.
So up there, and you were in none of it.
Correct. Yep. Yeah. We flew into Baker Lake.
So none of it is a Canadian province. I find that people don't know their Canadian geography very well.
Yeah. It's a big one too.
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah, it's a lot of that, we flew up past Hudson Bay, which I guess as a kid you read about Hudson Bay and that's like where the polar bears are. Yeah. And the thought that like I was flying over polar bears was pretty cool to even start the whole deal. Like I was glued to that plane window, and turns out you can't see a polar bear from above 30,000 feet, even though it was clear, but I was looking hard. We got up there. We were supposed to go, we were supposed to go out to a camp, and there was a tropical storm. I don't remember hurricane, what was going on, but some major weather event was sucking all that cold air out of the north. And so it was blowing 50. And the lake was all chopped up, and we were supposed to go by boat, and it just didn't work out. And, the camp ended up kind of getting flattened that we were supposed to go to. So we were able to talk to the local Fish and Game, and they confirmed that our, outfitter, the area that he was permitted to operate in, happened to be, town was there. We had to go a certain direction, and then 2 of the guides were in town that technically were under his umbrella. So we were checked off. We were legal and able to talk to the locals, which was awesome. We got on their local Facebook page and negotiated.
The local None of It Facebook page.
Oh yeah, and
they've got one.
Yep. Negotiated rental of their ATVs. I think we paid $300 for the week to rent their ATVs from them, which, on a hunt like that, it kind of saved our bacon. But, they the guys that were supposed to be on the hunt with me, a couple of them hadn't ridden 4-wheelers a lot. And so then we were trying to buy helmets because they weren't comfortable riding without helmets. And, it sounded horrible, but at the same time, I guess for me, we ended up making it happen.
Yeah.
A lot of it goes to the guy that invited me to go. I mean, he's a go-getter. He's a former Ranger, and he's used to finding a mission and getting it done. And that mentality went a long ways. And so, we ended up striking out from town, and, I killed my muskox right about dark, and, it's pretty late up there. Packed it up, got it on the ATVs, bounced our way back in, and
Hold on, let me stop you. So how far from... okay, you don't have to name the town. How big was the town? I mean, like how many humans were in the town?
I couldn't tell you, but it's
small.
But it's an interior community, which for that area, you've got the people that live on the ocean and you're eating seal and narwhal.
Would it have been like 10,000 people?
No.
Okay,
maybe
like
2,000.
2,000,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, so a town of 2,000. Surrounded by like tundra.
Yep.
Like where you could just see, is it one of these places where you can just see for like rolling miles?
If you get up high, you can see for a ways, but there's still drainages. There's not trees.
Okay, no trees.
They'd refer to it like you were asking them, okay, well, how far up this river have you gone? Well, I've gone to the trees. Like that's a landmark. Wow. Is you could follow this river to the trees, and then you'd hit that boreal forest. But where we were was wide open tundra.
Okay.
There, if you see none of it, you see their flag. I'll show you later. When next time, we've got some time. But their flag is actually a little pile of rocks. And what they did was they used these little pile of rocks. The caribou would see it on a ridge, and then it would turn them, so they could direct the caribou. And their entire culture was they call themselves a caribou people. And so we killed it, and we got one caribou.
Hold on.
Sorry, I'm getting off track here.
No, you're on a cool track. I saw the flag.
Okay.
So the symbol of the Nunavut flag is a stack of rocks. And so what these caribou people would do, native people, when they were hunting these caribou, they would have rock stacks that would act as decoy humans.
Right.
And this is something that presumably they've been doing for
millennia.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And what's cool to me is that they've been hunting those caribou so long, those caribou recognize anything vertical and about that thick, quote unquote, is a predator.
Right.
One of those dang humans.
Yeah. And
that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, and their whole culture. We watched them. Like we killed one caribou. They weren't, first off, they don't hunt. They catch. Like the guy that we hunted with, the guide was, he'd harpooned a narwhal and shot seals, and like he killed a barren gown grizzly that winter. That's how he made his money. He was a hunter.
There's grizz in none of it.
Yeah, there's barren ground grizzly bear.
Really?
And when we got my muskox, it was last light, and there was 3 of us there, and one of us was kind of on grizzly watch.
Okay.
And we never saw one, but we had a wolverine come right up to the kill site, which was one of the coolest experiences you can have. We're sitting there working a muskox up, and we see something moving in the rocks, and we've got it filmed, and it's a wolverine.
I'll be darned.
And like hollered at him, and he stood up and looked at us, and
waiting for you to leave.
Yeah, there was foxes there. It was dark. Our headlights were shining. You could see like fox eyes in the rocks, and that wolverine was there, and they were waiting. It's a rough lifestyle up there, and they knew there was going to be a carcass, a gut pile that they could work over, and they were just standing back as polite as could be, waiting for us to finish up.
Yeah. So you said the natives ask if you caught something,
right?
They're like, "Did you catch a muskox? Did you catch a caribou?"
Right.
And down here, we know that when people say that, they don't know they're not hunters,
right?
Did you catch a deer? No, I didn't catch a deer. I killed a deer. But up there, that's what they say.
But clearly, that's their culture. That's what they do. And so I'm not one to tell them that catching a muskox or catching a caribou is wrong. And so it was, and the people were just over the top, friendly, nice, but they lived on the land. So we get the muskox, we come back. The story I was going to tell is there's an old mine access road, or there's an access road to a mine that has a couple side chutes where they've done exploratory. And so that's kind of how you access these areas where we hit their trail system. Well, we hit this gravel mine road. We go across the bridge. We're beat up, bouncing across these trails, and none of us had spent the amount of time that they do on snowmobile and sled or whatever and four-wheelers. So we get back and we're kind of gathering ourselves and getting the load set. Well, look up, the whole sky is lit up with northern lights. And so the whole thing, you couldn't really script a better, hunt. And when we saw him, we spotted him from a ways. We were able to sneak in on this muskox. There was a younger bull that you kind of think of the muskox as just, out there doing their thing, not real active. I mean, this bull was goring the tundra with his horns and jumping around and all fired up. And the one I ended up killing was...
Now, how many did you see all in one group?
That group, I want to say, was maybe 8 or 10.
They were just kind of spread out. They weren't like huddled up like you envision them.
No, one of the bulls that the group got was a single. That was the guy that I went with. We spotted a bull all by himself, and we were sneaking up on him, and he wanted everybody to be a part of everything. And so he's like, no, stay right with me. And we're getting real close to this bull. And I was like, dude, I'm just going to stay back. Like, it's him and the guide, you have to be guided. And I go, I'm not doing you any good. And he's like, well, I want to range. And I was like, dude, Mike, we're within 100 yards. Just put the X on the big part. We're not to the point where at a definitive range with a rifle is really going to make a big deal. Well, I'm wearing a tan backpack with gray clothes on, and I'm kind of huddled there. Well, the sun comes up, and the guide, I didn't know this later, but the bull sees me, and he starts walking towards me, and the guide tells Mike, he's like, you should shoot that muskox or he's going to run Justin over. Yeah. Because I look like a bull muskox laying there in the tundra.
You kind of look like a bull muskox anyway.
Well, thanks, Clay. I appreciate that. You look like a squirrel.
Yeah. I was thinking it was a compliment what I was saying to
you. He smells way better than a muskox.
Does the muskox see well?
I don't think. I think it's probably similar to a bear.
Really? Okay.
People say, "Oh, bears can't see." Well, they can see as good as we can.
See, that's weird because you would think a big. I guess they're not an ungulate. Are they an ungulate? They're not like a deer. They're got
bovine.
a cloven.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
bovine. Okay,
they're bovine.
Okay. Well, they just seems like on the tundra, sight would be like a massive predatory defense.
Yeah,
we got our resident looker-upper Becca's frantically checking on whether we
ovabus, but I think bovine.
No, so it seems like they would have really good eyes, but now when I think about them, they don't necessarily have huge eyes.
Yeah, the skulls on those.
And
are
I'm
awesome.
sure their noses are really good.
Yeah, but they're like I said, the group I got mine out of, we had some rocks and some kind of ridges.
They weren't hard to stalk. I mean, it wasn't like stalking an antelope.
No, and we held up. I can't remember exactly the distance, but it wasn't a far shot. But we first saw him. I mean, we had him at 500 yards. And again, it was very interesting to me because this guide had guided a few people, but not killed a bunch of muskox. But somebody had told him that some people wanted to shoot a long ways.
Okay.
And he asked me, he's like, is that gun a far shooting gun or a close shooting gun? And I was like, well, what do you mean?
That's about the way I talk about rifles.
I go, Sam, what do you mean? He goes, does that shoot far or shoot close? And I was like, well, it can shoot away, Sam, but we got a 50-mile-an-hour crosswind. Like, let's get closer. And so we get to 350. And he goes, well, would you like to get closer? I'm like, well, Sam, can we get closer? Then it's just the way he talked, very matter of factly. He goes, yes. So we stop again. He's like, would you like to get closer? I'm like, Sam, I'd like to get as close as we can, and then we'll talk about a shot. And he goes, okay. And we got, it was a rock that was about the perfect height that I laid a pack down on, and you're shooting off of a bench. And, I was saying that other bull's goring the ground and jumping around. Well, this bull's got the cows, and he's watching him out of the corner of his eye, but he does, pretending to not pay him any attention, but that had his attention. He was watching this younger bull and, got the shot, and it worked out. Great.
I keep going back to this, Justin. I'm intrigued by these muskox. Their defense mechanism would be, like a caribou's defense mechanism is to run. Mm-hmm. An antelope's defense mechanism is to run. The way that you win by running is to run before the thing that's trying to catch you starts to run. So they have great eyes. So they can see a wolf and go, okay, boys, get ahead. The muskox defense is they huddle up. Like you see this And so they're ready to defend themselves, and they're young, not by running, but by just
brute force.
Brute force. You aren't getting through this.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it would make sense to me that they wouldn't necessarily have the best eyes on the tundra, because it's like if a wolf's at 300 yards, he's not a threat.
Yeah,
we're just going to keep eating.
Well, and
if he's inside if he's inside that zone, then they circle up. But I'm amazed that they weren't killed out by natives or by just humans over the eon. Not killed out, but
they weren't into muskox meat.
That's where I was getting into.
Yeah, they were a caribou people. So anyway, we were talking about this, and what I was going to say is, well, you got the muskox, got it out. We all got our bulls, but we got one caribou, and he took us to his family caribou camp up this river, which was one of the cooler experiences ever. But the river we were on, like, he had the same boat that he used to go chase narwhals and seals was the same boat he was running a river with. Now, I grew up in Oregon, so running a jet boat on a riffly river isn't a big deal. Well, yeah, you're not running a, basically 18-foot Lund with a prop. And we're running in, 3 feet of water. And he actually stopped at one point to show us how shallow it was. And you could see the look on his face. He's like, I didn't think this through, because he couldn't get back up to speed. So I'm laying on the front of the boat trying to hold the bow down so he could get up to speed and get us running again, which was cool. And we get to this big rapid, and, he just stops and he goes, we will wait for the other boat here. Many people have died here. And he doesn't elaborate, and he's a super friendly guy, but like, that's just the way he said things. And all of us are sitting there going like, oh, many people have died here. Okay, so anyway, we get up there, we kill this caribou. It's last light. We're kind of nervous about getting back down the river, back into town.
Did you go past the rapid?
Oh yeah.
But the other boat was just better.
They followed us. So Sam knew the river.
So they would just watch you die.
He was making sure that we were there in case
Thanks,
they
man.
They had a problem.
If we die, just watch it and just let people know that we didn't make it.
Right. So get this caribou, and we're taking care of it, and all of us are in there. We all hunted quite a bit, so we're trying to help. Well, Mike goes to get this caribou, and Sam just shoots him this look, and I'm elbowing him like, no. And Mike's like, I'm just trying to help. I'm like, we're all trying to help, but Sam's really into that. And he's like, oh, I gotcha. So we finish skinning it out. Well, Sam goes to get the thing, and the first thing he does, he opens it up, he reaches and he pulls out the kidney, and there's a lining, like a sinewy or a tissue lining around it that he peels it off. He takes his knife and he cuts a dollar bill size out of the stomach, just the paunch. Doesn't wipe it off, nothing. Takes that paunch, wraps it around the kidney, and eats the whole kidney. And a caribou kidney is giant. And I'm a pretty adventurous eater. I feel like I'd try about it. When they didn't wash off the paunch, I was like, no. And then he eats.
That's where Justin's line is.
Yeah, you got to at least wash the grain off. So then he does the same thing with the other kidney. And, thinking about it, I mean, if they're a caribou people, that's their vitamins. We get veggies and we mix everything up.
Yeah.
Well, that's why they would crave, the organ meat, is there's so much in there that the caribou have turned from the tundra, lichens and what they're eating on the tundra, the grasses. I mean, that's how they got the minerals, and he still craved that. That was the best tasting thing in the world, and we get back, they had the bones. He ended up inviting us over to his house to try caribou and narwhal, which, you can't import it or anything, but they were eating it, and it was a frozen chunk of narwhal blubber that they marinated in some soy sauce and onions, and it was kind of a communal dish. And we got to try narwhal, and it wasn't disgusting by any means. I feel like you could find the baldest tire you could and then slow cook it for a couple days and then put it in soy sauce and onion. You'd have a similar experience, but it was a pretty cool deal. And they had the bones sitting on the floor, and I was like, well, what are you guys going to do? You're going to turn that into broth, or what are you doing? Like, oh no, we cracked those open and put the marrow on our toast instead of butter. It's better than butter. And so it was just
they
awesome.
Use every part of the caribou.
They made us some bannock biscuits, just a simple biscuit cooked in seal oil, which, it was, similar to bear fat, bear grease. It didn't have a real strong flavor or anything. It was just a super simple biscuit. The caribou they served us was, it wouldn't be something similar to what we'd do. It was some veggies stir fried with some caribou, and then they kind of made a pan gravy out of it. Yeah. And it was, and seeing, that's what they did, what they ate. And Sam was, his kids were there, over the top nice. His wife was just beyond, accommodating. And They lived in kind of I don't know if it was government housing or what, but it was kind of an apartment building, but there wasn't doors on any of the apartments. It was just like a sheet over it. And there was just family, like, oh, that's my sister.
So like the floor of that building.
And I don't know, I mean, I didn't understand, but turns out like the 4-wheelers we'd rented was from some of his family. They actually took really good care of their stuff. Those are the best looking ones we'd seen. So it was his sister who needed the 4-wheeler back because she had to go to work, and that's how she got to work. But she'd rented us to it. So, I mean, yeah, like the plan kind of fell apart, but it turned into one of the best cultural experiences and hunts you could go on, like everything. And of course, we all got nice muskox and big muskox. I mean, 3 of the 4 actually qualify for B and C, which isn't what you're looking for, but I mean, just doing that, like that's
better than a stick in the eye.
Right. So it was all a real cool experience.
Wow. That really is. Golly. I was thinking about when you were describing kind of the hunting culture of these people, we can't make any bones about the fact that we are a sport hunting culture. Mm-hmm. And that's not a bad thing. These, like those guys, at least historically, I don't think they're living off caribou like they used to. I mean,
they'd prefer to.
Yeah. But if you look back at their culture the last, thousands of years, I mean, that wasn't for fun.
No.
That they were killing caribou. It was it was essentially their farming, their cattle, the things that we would associate. I mean, it was work. Mm-hmm. And so they look at it totally different. They look at the hunt totally different. And the cool thing, and I think a lot of people wouldn't understand the term sport hunting, but sport hunting, recreational hunting, is actually a big part of what saved North American wildlife. Is we quit using them for, we took away their market value. Mm-hmm. So you couldn't kill them and sell them. That's a good thing if you want wildlife on the landscape. And we don't, now certain small groups of people do utilize wildlife meat like us, our families, your family, a lot of people that listen to this. I mean, we use a ton of wild game, but we don't live off of it.
We don't have to.
We don't have to.
It's a choice we actively make. We find it healthier. We take great pride in doing it, but it's not, at the end of the day, if I don't pull the trigger on a bear in the spring or an elk in the fall, there's not an actual concern that we're not going to make it. We just, don't buy as many bear hunter t-shirts and spend that money on, expensive beef at the store. We can do that and still be fine.
Yeah. It seems like these native guides, like wherever in the world they were, when they interact with people from America or the West, or that are sport hunters, there's always this kind of like tensions, maybe not the right word, but just like they don't understand why you would want to do certain things a certain way.
Well, it was funny you bring that up. When we saw this caribou, it was a single bull that we spotted from the river. And there's 3 of us in the boat that all had a caribou tag. Well, Mike had let me shoot first on the muskox. And so clearly I'm like, I'm out. It's between you and the other guy that we're in the boat. And, Mike had put in a bunch of effort to get us these 4-wheelers and kind of made it happen. And the other guy that was with us was like, no, Mike, you go ahead. This is, you giving you rights. And as we're kind of discussing it, it didn't take long. I mean, it wasn't like an argument or anything, but just kind of figuring out, nobody wanted to step on anybody's toes and be polite. And Sam looks at it, he goes, I don't care who shoots it. Just somebody go shoot it. I'm hungry.
Yeah. I need some kidney and paunch.
Like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
So, and it was, like I said, and he did an amazing job because he read us and he saw what we wanted from the experience. And, and he got the caribou meat. I mean, you could see right away. It's like, no, this is, this is all you. And they were, he didn't care who shot it. But they had caribou, and it was a pretty cool deal.
Yeah, man, what a neat experience.
Yeah,
golly, muskox. I think they're one of the neatest looking of all the North American big game. Yeah. I mean, I would love to hunt muskox. They're incredible animals. Justin, we talked about earlier. Let's switch gears a little bit and talk about some hound stuff. So the Boone and Crockett record keeping system has, well, first of all, Boone and Crockett was they were the people that started talking about fair chase. I mean, back in the late 1800s, I mean, where did the term, would you say that Boone and Crockett, Roosevelt, those guys were the ones that crafted that term, or was that there before?
It's very interesting. If you look, there was an ethics system of hunting that kind of came over from Europe. It was a class thing back then, and the trophy side of things, that the quality of the estate, you'd hang up your Sika deer or whatever it was because the quality of your game showed the quality of your estate. But there was a clash. You didn't just kill everything. Well, when they came over here, there was the right way to do it, and there was it was the better off sportsmen that had the fine shotguns and whatnot, and this whole idea that there was an unlimited resource clearly wasn't the case. And so it was starting to be talked about, and there was different classes of hunters. But what Boone and Crockett did, and through Forest and Stream and George Bird Grinnell, which was one of our main founders, they popularized the idea of fair chase and self-limitation, and you look at the original tenets as like there was things you didn't do. They called it jacklighting, spotlighting today. They'd use lanterns and they could see deer eyes and they'd float rivers and shoot them. Well, that clearly wasn't a fair deal. Or you wouldn't, it wasn't right. And so they popularized it. And reading these early writers, the term you mentioned, reading about somebody hunting, close to your home and imagining this. There's a guy, Dal DeWeese, who was a writer that went to Alaska and actually hunted a lake that I was fortunate enough to be able to go and hunt. And reading his description, he shot a second moose. And in his article, he's almost apologizing to the people reading the article. You're going to call me a game hog for killing 2 moose in my lifetime. Well, the second moose he killed was actually the largest moose ever killed in the world at the time. And so even then,
when was that?
Early 1900s.
Okay, so he wasn't apologizing for killing 2 moose in the same year.
Oh, in a lifetime. He says in his article, you're gonna call me a game hog. And so at the time, that was how the classy hunters, the writers, the upper echelon of the hunting community would go out. And they actually, if you read it, they talk, everybody says, we had to end market hunting. And that was a big thing with, the Lacey Act, where they disallowed the transfer of it was illegal to market hunt in every state, but if you could get it over state lines, they weren't able to enforce it. So the Lacey Act said, game taken, it's an offense to take illegally gotten game across the state line, which is still used today. If somebody poaches and takes it out of state, then they get federal charges through the Lacey Act. So it's a very, very solid wildlife, management law. Right. But anyway, they, sorry. You got me too excited about too many of these things.
Lacey, man, you could start talking about the Lacey Act and he hyperventilates.
Yeah. So anyway, these guys, they made this selective hunting. You couldn't put pressure on the young. You couldn't put pressure on the females for wildlife to recover. And then it kind of, it was self-regulation to start with, and we had to get hunters to buy in. Well, then, Aldo Leopold started the first wildlife program at Wisconsin. And so states started getting professional management where the hunter didn't have to self-regulate as much, because now we have regulations that say, hey, you can only take this much. But that, the essence of the hunt and doing it right and giving fair chase is, how can you have a fair chase when you have a gun? The definition is the animal has the opportunity to beat you, is what the idea was. Look at
opportunity of escape.
Right. And that is the fair aspect.
And so like some places where there would be no opportunity of escape would be like an animal crossing a river and you're in a boat.
Yeah.
And we've all seen pictures of like deer swimming across a river and like a boater just kind of like being up beside it and like videoing it. Like you could kill that animal.
Right. Or in an enclosure.
In an enclosure.
That is kind of the basis. And so there were certain things that were just too the basis of, you know, how far is too far, how far is long range shooting. That's a very hard number to come up with. But at the same time, if you're deadly to 2,000 yards, does that animal really ever have the ability to detect you? Does he have a chance of eluding you if you're using that technology? So that's what we're in now. But this gets back to what you and I were discussing earlier with the bears. Dogs are not an unfair chase thing. I mean, that's the culture. Right. That's what, you know, I mean, the bear hunters of the East, I mean, the hunter heroes of the day were dog hunters. I mean, it was, but it comes to a point where what Boone and Crockett said historically when we made this rules was the actual radio collars. Yeah. So you'd have your antenna and you'd run your dogs, and if, you know, you didn't get the bear or the cat or whatever you were on, you'd lost the dog, you could turn on that radio collar and find that dog, which is, you know, again, you're not using it for the hunt, you're just maintaining your dogs. I mean, clearly they're part of the family and their bloodlines and they're, you know, highly respected. I mean, you don't want you to just lose them. Well, with the invent of, you know, GPS collars, you've got real-time location of your dogs.
Let's stop right there. So with the old radio telemetry collars, that is a lot of the ways that guys used them anyway.
Right.
Like back in GPS came around, I don't know, in the last 15 years, maybe not even that long.
Yeah.
Because when I was a kid in the 90s coon hunting, all the bigwigs, which I was not one, had telemetry. And you'd put the collar on the dog, but like once every 5 hunts, you'd pull it out.
Right.
Because you wouldn't lose the dog.
Right.
You'd always know where the dog was.
And
you pull it out and turn it on and beep, 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 and it would point to where the dog was.
And at that time, we said once that receiver gets turned on, the fair chase aspect is over.
Okay.
And so that's what we did. Well, now you have the GPS collars that come in. We have a question that say, were radio collars attached to the dogs when they were, and the answer is always, 99 times out of 100, yes. Were those collars used in the harvest of the game? And we get a lot of questions about this.
Yeah.
And what it comes down to is the essence of the hunt. Using dogs is fine, but you have the ability to kick out dogs, watch that GPS receiver, and not actually participate in the hunt. Miss out on trailing the dogs, the physical aspect of it. And you can just wait until they're show and treat and walk in. That is using technology. I mean, you're not, and so we've said that is the line that you can't cross. You can't use that technology to bypass following the dogs, keeping them in earshot. And it's, you hear your dogs go over a ridge and you pull back to the truck and run around to the next ridge, knowing the way you're heading. That's not a violation either. I mean, you physically heard them. You're like, okay, they're going here. That's part of the hunt. But it's once you lose the dogs and you're like, okay, well, we can't hear them. We don't know where they are. You turn on that receiver and like, oh, okay, they're over in that holler or whatever part of the country you're hunting. That's where it crosses a line. And that's what we're asking people is, if you wouldn't have turned on the collars, were they in earshot? Would you have been able to follow them? Were you on foot? Were you, in a vehicle trying to follow them on the ridge, listening down in these canyons, trying to stay with them? And we get a lot of questions about that. And it's no, we don't want you to put your dogs at risk. Yes, we understand that there's wolves on the landscape and, but the essence of the hunt, you're not following technology. You're actually following the dogs and engaged.
Yeah. That's, I guess the thing for a houndsman to take away was that if they were in a situation where they were, wanting to put an animal in the book, they would do that. The way these guys use the collars, especially in hilly terrain, is, man, they're not using them like that. I mean, I'm just being honest with you.
Oh yeah, no.
I mean, because you just like a bear. Man, I have been seeing the actual Garmin data of a bear that ran 36 miles in a day of running. Dogs, like a dog that wasn't tracking the bear. The dog was tracking the bear, but a bear racer went that far. And man, that's tough. And now, used to when they didn't, they did it before they had GPS. It was just a lot harder. And that's the tough part is that it's like when technology jumps up like that and it's legal, it's hard for guys to want to I mean, it's kind of like traditional archery.
Right.
It's kind of like, here, you can use the rifle or you can use the trad bow.
Mm-hmm.
Very few people are going to use the trad bow, when they can use the rifle. But I like that you have a way and a clear description for people to understand how they could fulfill the requirements of Boone and Crockett,
Yeah, well, I mean, the other thing on that too is, yeah, it's harder. But again, the animal, it's okay to not get your bear. And I struggle with this, and we all do. We all come out on a hunt. We're all got these things, and you have to remind yourself, the animal has a fair chase to escape. If you're doing it right, that means he's going to win. And you're not always going to come home with meat. And again, you said it, we're sport hunters. You've always got to remember this, that, through technology and everything you can do, you can pretty much guarantee a kill. I mean, for the right amount of money and equipment, put yourself in the right place. Yeah, you can do that. And is that really what we do this for? I mean,
now I would disagree with that the technology would guarantee the kill in this. Like, let's say you turn your dogs loose, turn them loose. I guess the technology is. I'm working through this, Justin, in my head. I guess the technology is just helping you find your dogs, because like you could turn them loose, and the dogs could be treed 8 miles away, 3 hollows over, and I mean they caught the bear. The bear, but then it takes you, till dark to find them.
Right.
If you're just listening by ear, and then, so you go in and you can't take the bear, so I guess, it's, and I guess that goes back to the essence too of the houndsman is the hounds are doing the work. And that's where it's a little bit of
right.
It's like, those guys aren't interested in killing the bear.
No.
They're interested in the dogs doing the work and killing the bear. And so I guess that's where it's a fine line, because the technology is just helping you follow the dog. Now, in an outfitted hunt, like where this guy has no connection to the dogs, and he's literally just interested in killing an animal.
Right.
That's not a bad thing.
No.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Like, that guy's different than the guy that's raising those hounds. You know what I mean?
100%.
It's a big ask to like say, make this like 20 times harder, Anyway, I'm just thinking, man.
No,
it is. It's a squabble. What's cool about Boone and Crockett is that you guys are trying to be relevant inside of changing times, which we all are. I love it that what you just said, I think, is the thing to key in on, is that using dogs. Because I think sometimes people might think that other people, if you were looking at hound stuff from like a persecution mentality, which sometimes we do.
Right.
It's not the hounds that the hounds are absolutely, I mean, you guys recognize that houndsmen are incredible. I mean, they are outdoorsmen. They are, I mean, like, it's not the hounds that would make something not fair chase.
Right, exactly.
The technology.
Yep.
And that's one that, I mean, some people are going to listen to this and say, that's bullcrap. Some people are going to listen to it, and I hope they just understand the intent. You guys' intent is to protect the fair chase aspect of the sport. And whether you agree with the technicalities of what you come up with, that's kind of irrelevant. The idea is that we do have to protect fair chase.
Yeah, you can't, what's the statistic? 72% of the population doesn't hunt but supports it.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing, is that's where the fair chase thing comes in. And in my opinion, which, not the club as a whole, but me personally, I mean, that's our biggest fight. We have to conduct ourselves ethically and police ourselves. We can't be doing things that the layperson finds offensive, and justify it in our own mind. We need to say, what is too far? What is the line that no longer the animal has a chance to escape? Where are you sacrificing woodsmanship for technology? and I mean,
And now that's a booger because I don't know if you've heard me say it before, but when guys start dogging on me about baiting bears, I go, okay, you take me with a bucket full of bait and a bow and arrow, and you go with Onyx hunt maps. This is like an Onyx commercial because basically I'm equating Onyx to being like using technology. I mean, holy smokes. These new technologies, I mean, you're kidding yourself if you don't think that it's incredible. I mean, being able to mark waypoints across canyons and to be able to go into these deep places. I mean, like me hunting the West, not being familiar with this, for me being able to turn on the little track, and to track myself and to know how to get back out of there. No, that's a booger because that is massive tech. And I'm saying use the heck out of it, but I'm saying, just like anything in life, you have to draw the line. And then when you draw that line, there's a way to go, well, if that's on that side of the line, then that's on that side of the line too. And you can't win it. Y'all understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know. And I mean, I dealt with that. I was in Arizona. I had a buddy with me that he just was along for the ride. He wasn't he's not a big hunter. I mean, he's hunted, but he's just more up for an adventure. And so we drive down there and get down there in the area that I'd scouted online. It wasn't as good when we got boots on the ground. So we're going to this new area. And, I'm watching my GPS, I'm watching OnX, I'm watching everything. I know the elevation that deer are going to be at. I know what I've looked at ahead of time. And I'm 100% dialed in on this. And I get to this spot and we're going to camp here and, whatever. And sure enough, we find deer the next day, kill a nice buck, And we're driving out and there's somebody set up long range shooting with a tent and they got their gun and their rangefinder. And I start grumbling about, oh, that's non-fair chase, blah, 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 a little bit judgy. And my buddy,
you get that way, Becca?
My buddy looks at me and he goes, oh, okay, Mr. GPS, OnX, everything. And it made me think about it. And that's all people really need to do too. I mean, clearly don't break any laws. Like that's not ever okay.
Yeah.
But it's a personal choice. And if the country you're in is, you don't feel like it's making it too easy, that's fine. But there's, the old bear hunting term, classic, a garbage bear. You go to a garbage dump, there's going to be a bear there. Yeah, that's, not a guaranteed kill, but you're greatly upping your odds and taking a shortcut. Some people are okay with it. Some people aren't. Yeah. That's that personal decision of fair chase.
Fair chase goes beyond the law.
100%. Yeah.
Hunting ethics goes beyond what is legal. And I think all of us have a way inside of our own. Everybody knows their own unique challenges. Like, I know what I'm up against when I come to Montana on a bear hunt, and I choose to make the weapon not the limiting factor.
Right.
I carry a rifle that will shoot a long ways. For me, a long ways. Mm-hmm. For me, that is enough restriction that bear has a lot of chance to get away from me, and he does most of the time.
Well, the other thing, I always tell bow hunters, I go, there's no rule that says you can't shoot a bear in bow range with a rifle. All the bears I've killed in Montana have been less than 20 yards. Every single one of them.
I'm doing it wrong, Justin.
And I've taken longer shots on things, and some of my biggest regrets, and some of them were very successful, good long shots. But looking back on it, I'm like, I should have tried to get a little closer, given that critter more of a chance to detect me. But again, it's a personal thing, and you're thinking about it. That's the other thing too. If you're out there consciously being like, is this legitimate? Am I giving the animal the respect it needs? You're in the right mindset. If you find yourself slightly to one side or the other of a fair chase requirement for record book entry, that's not the end of the world. That's just be thinking about it. Are you respectful? Are you treating this animal with the respect it needs? They faced extinction. Everything we've dealt with. We're in a time now. How do you sell fair chase to somebody, on the East Coast that the deer are overrun and they can't kill enough? How do you tell them that this nuisance that are overpopulated and have disease issues and are causing accidents? How can you explain to them that the way that we hunt that matters? It's a tough time.
Yeah.
Well, I think we have to be concerned with optics. We inside of modern times, so like if things, and not that we base our lives off perception. I mean, some people will never understand why we would kill a wild animal. And I mean, we're not going to stop killing wild animals just because somebody thinks it's bad. Like, we know the science, we have the history, we know the quality of the meat. So there's some things that you don't use that evaluator for, like public perception. Some things are just like, this is just who we are. If you don't like it, you're going to have to figure out another way to look, because this is what we're going to be doing. But there's the other side of it where, we have to massively be concerned with optics. So that's where you get into those gray areas of technology. Yeah. And I think we have to tell the narration of why and how we're using those things in the right way. I mean, like, somebody could hear that, such and such took a 530-yard shot at a bull elk. Well, maybe that's not the part of the story that you put on Instagram.
Right.
Maybe the part of the story you put on Instagram is that you hunted for 6 days and you passed up smaller bulls and you camped on the landscape with your dad and your son. You see what I'm saying? I mean, like, sometimes these things are, it's all about the way the story's told, too.
Well, and it's the way you think about it. I mean, again, with your example there, that shot distance, that makes it about you, not the animal.
That's right.
I mean,
that's right.
When your picture has a little sign you're holding up with the distance, it's a target. You've reduced that animal to nothing. It's about you, and humans. Inevitably, it's going to be about them. But at the same time, man, that's you gotta remember that you're just participating in the food chain. Yeah, it's not just
participating in the food chain.
It's not just about you. It's about the animal. It's about the experience. It's about the random rock you find, or this cool little weasel that runs up on the stump next to you and runs across your leg. I mean, that's all part of it. It's not I have the ability to deliver a shot at 530 yards on a bull elk. Yeah. That you've minimized the whole experience, and I'd even argue made it somewhat offensive to even those of us that hunt. Yeah, like I said, those longer shots. Put something on Facebook, and one of my buddies messaged me. He's like, "Oh, great buck, man! How far of a shot?" And I was like, "It was too far. It was 470 yards or something like that." And I go, "But," he goes, "Why didn't you put that out there?" And I go, "Because it's not about me. It's about this critter and the hunt and the country we were in and who I was with and the weather and all the adversity and the flat tires and all the all the experience." Yeah. And it's like, again, as long as you're analyzing what you're doing and deciding, is it about you or is it about the animal? Again, your mind's in the right place.
Yes. I think what's beneficial about a conversation like this, Justin, is it just gets your mind thinking in a certain way. Yep. So it's not about rules and because we are specifically talking about some rules with Boone and Crockett, but it's about, if nothing else, somebody's got to define fair chase. And that's the controversial role that Boone and Crockett has taken for the last 150 years. Yep. Somebody had to do it.
Yep, there's a line in the sand.
And you know what? When you have to draw a line in the sand, you're going to take some criticism, but you guys are doing it, and you're in the arena, and that's what's awesome. So I think that's great. And so a conversation like this, I think, can. There's certain people that are already thinking like this. The challenge in modern times is to get there's all in any group of people, there's always the core group of people, and then there's like the other 80%. Mm-hmm. And the other 80% aren't bad people. Right. It's not that they're just not into it as much as the 20. There's any group. You could take a classroom full of 8th graders, or you could take a church, or you could take a this or that, and like there always seems to be like it's like 80-20. Well, what we've got to do is make the whole thing saturated with like core philosophy. Yep. Does that make sense? Yeah. So like get the common guy
that just buys a hunting license and goes to camp for one weekend a year. That dude is super valuable to conservation.
100%.
Because he has purchased a hunting license. Mm-hmm. He is buying ammunition. He is contributing to Pittman Robertson. He's doing all the same stuff that me and you and Becker are doing. And he's a valuable contributor. But what we've got to do is get those guys thinking for whatever space they occupy in the hunting industry, in the hunting world, not the industry, to start thinking about these things. And I think that's how cultures shift. Like if we're trying to shift the hunting culture to this more thoughtful, intentional, grateful group of people that can really explain our story in a real, authentic, human way, then conversations like this are good. It just gets people thinking in a certain vein.
Well, the other thing to think about too that we have is Boone and Crockett. The minimum entries are, most people are never going to see that, but that doesn't mean that you can't hunt a forked horn with fair chase mentality.
Yeah,
we fight that a lot, and you even said it. Well, if you're trying to get something in the book, it doesn't matter about the book, doesn't matter about anything. It's the ethic that you go out there, and that's what our mission is. From the ethics side of things, no matter what you're doing, you've got to be thinking about the how. It's not just okay, you're hunting this big bull and you want to get it in the book, and that'd be cool, and that's a life goal and whatever. Sure, that's fine. That's what keeps me in a job. But at the same time, man, that same ethic should be applied to everything. I mean, it's, my dad said it to me with a hunt. We're not shooting Boone and Crockett deer. We'll use radios because it's legal in Oregon. Well, no, it doesn't matter if you're the best deer you're going to see is a 140-inch deer, 120-inch deer, or an 80-inch deer. It's everything we do. And, I just read that article that you had about Mr. Eldridge, that you did that interview, your newest bear hunting magazine. I was reading that, and you can see it in him. It's classy. There's a way to be a hunter, a respected hunter, treat the wildlife, work on your skills, sacrifice success sometimes. Your Instagram following may not appreciate you as much as if you only have 1 or 2 kill photos a year versus 20. But at the end of the day, the class that you're putting out and who you are and how hunters are viewed, it's far more important that you worry about the why or the why and whatnot more than the end result.
Yes, that's good. Becca, what do you think?
No, I think I'm just thankful that you gave us time to talk about, or gave Justin time to talk about this, because it's really important stuff. And
when Justin talks, you're talking. I know you taught him everything that he knows.
I wish. But yeah, it's just really important for hunters to keep this in the top of their mind, I think. And I think it's just to be aware that this is, probably integral to the future of our sport too. And
the future of wildlife. I mean, if hunting goes away, that's a lot of dollars that are not going to our wildlife.
Yeah.
And we talk about funding of the North American model and everything, and we need to do some work. I mean, there's a lot of uses and a lot of wildlife and a lot of folks out there now that maybe aren't paying their fair share of hunting, but that hunting does. But at the same time, man, hunting goes away. Dude, all your state wildlife management areas, all these things that fall under the umbrella of the game agency, that's gone. And so it's not just, I'm entitled to this, or, this deer's on my property, I don't have to buy a license. No, man, this is the whole system that built the wildlife we had and built the country we had. So,
yeah. Excellent. Becca, closing thoughts?
All's on my brain is spring bear and turkeys, because turkeys keep kicking my butt this season. So I just got this chip on my shoulder, feather on my shoulder.
Are you letting the turkeys determine the fair chase of these hunts just by how good they are? They keep beating
so
you.
Intelligent. I need some unfair advantage, I guess. I don't know. Yeah.
You need some dogs with radio collars.
Something. Yeah.
Turkey dogs.
It turns out I'm a really bad turkey hunter, but Justin got one and it was delicious. And now I really want another one.
You got it. Yeah. You got a little bit of time.
Yeah. See.
Yeah.
More meat on a bear.
There's more meat on a bear. Yeah, our bears are just starting to get cranking here, I think. So yeah, looking forward to some sunny weather and some bears on the hillsides.
Yeah.
A couple dozen ticks a day.
Yeah, well, there's that.
Permethrin.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
You got to hit it. I do pretty good with that stuff. Well, thank you guys so much. And,
I always say that sometimes people don't see the relevancy in joining organizations. It's just like, well, I'm not. It's just, I don't know. They just let things lapse, and part of our responsibility inside of Hunters is being financial contributors and just being team players. And I think that's why it's important to be a member of the Boone and Crockett Club, be a member of Sportsman's Alliance. There's certain groups, and not, I know how humans work. I know how I work. I can't be a member of 30 organizations. I'm just not that well organized.
Right.
But man, pick 3 organizations and be dedicated to them for the rest of your life. And those organizations could change over time. But, the guy that I meet that's a big hunter and is not a member of something, I'm just like, dude, that's just irresponsible.
Yep.
It's not that hard. And it's like, and to me, that's the place where if we're a minority of people, which we are, hunters are 4.5% of the U.S. population, something like that. We're the minority in the activities that we do. You got to be on your A game if you want to stay relevant.
Yep.
And to me, that means A game means strong unification, and that strong unification comes inside of being members of stuff. And I always talk about the Sportsman's Alliance. I think they're a great group. I talk about Boone and Crockett. And I talk about all the state associations that you could be members of that are defending the rights of what you like, whether it's a bear association in your state or there's innumerable nonprofit hunting conservation organizations. But be a member.
And those that you're a member of, stay engaged.
Stay engaged.
Be the expert. When a conversation on something that you're passionate comes up about, don't be ignorant to what's going on. And these organizations, these publications, all this stuff, that's what we're driving to do. Here's the conservation issues. Here's what we need to do. Here's our concerns. So be a member and stay engaged with it. And you have a question, ask. We love questions. So,
Yep. All right. Well, thank you guys so much.
Yeah,
great conversation.
Thanks
Love
again,
it.
Clay. Always enjoy it.
Yes. Well, keep the wild places wild, because that's where the bears live. And the muskox. And the wolverines.
Yep.
And the weasels.
After 3 years of work, our follow-up to the Meat Eater Fish and Game Cookbook is here. It's the Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, campfire, and camp stove. Here is your book for everything that's best cooked or eaten outside. From grilling to open fire cooking to Dutch ovens to smokers to barbecue to backpacking meals to how to pull off the perfect fish fry, with pit stops along the way for lessons about Ice Age cooking methods and the best 5 ways to construct a cooking fire you can be proud of. And of course, we're focusing on wild game and fish here with over 100 recipes, including stuffed venison burgers 3 ways, wild duck with ahi verde sauce, a jerky made with cola, a gin and tonic made with fire-charred lemons, and grilled frog legs made with a sticky sweet sauce. This ain't your normal cookbook, so be prepared to be surprised. Get your copy now. For more info, visit themeateater.com or buy it wherever books are sold.